I feel like mixers still exist for one reason. Imagine this, you're in the studio at 2 in the morning, you had a glass of wine or drinks or you're smoking, whatever you're doing. You're trying to finish a song and you just can't finish it. There's something missing. I don't have that moment. And that's one of the only reasons why we exist. We have an unbiased opinion on your art, and you trust us to make certain calls to see if we can just hopefully improve it, you know?
Chances are my guest has mixed many of your favorite songs. I'm not exaggerating when I say that. His discography is a mile long, full of the most influential songwriters and music artists of our time. He's won 18 Grammys. He also has his own line of mixing plugins with Waves. He's a studio owner, and he's managed to open up his own world-class restaurant, Verse, in Los Angeles. I don't know how he finds time to do all these things, but he has managed to make time to be with us today. Mr. Manny Marroquin, thanks so much for being here. Welcome.
Thank you for having me. That's a great intro. Thank you for that amazing. Wait, don't stop, but don't stop. Keep going.
Well, I met you in the studio in, it was like 2012 in France, and you have been a busy, busy man. Like, so much going on. It's wild how much stuff you've worked on.
You know, it's crazy. Like, after, I want to say 25, 30 years of mixing, being in the studio, I enjoy it probably more than ever. And I know that's going to sound cliche and all that, but I still love being in the studio. I'm studio rat for life. So, but I'm doing it in a different way, a different chapter, you know, in the probably one of the most fulfilling chapters too, like being in the studio.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, the longevity's been incredible, but you didn't build all this, overnight. It's been a journey for you. And so, I mean, you started out as a runner, right? Was it Enterprise? Legendary studio in LA. Maybe for those who aren't familiar, tell us a little bit about that experience. What did that do for you in terms of preparing you to be where you are now, and really just humbling you from the beginning?
Yeah, look, I come from very humble beginnings. I grew up in Guatemala, came here when I was 9. So talk about humble beginnings. This is a third world country, So. I think I was 19 when I got the job. And, the classic story of, the studio manager, Tom Brown, I was making a cappuccino and he's asked me if I could assist a session. From that point on, I mean, I didn't know anything really when I think about it. But one thing I think I did have was just a drive. I just wanted to be, I just really wanted to do my best. I wanted to be in the room, getting people's cappuccinos, cleaning bathrooms, and getting them food and throwing out the trash while you're having big dreams of being in the studio. Like, going through that made me a better assistant engineer, and then assisting engineer being hopefully good at that made me a better engineer, which made me a better mixer, which...
Full circle, you're at the place that you're at. You're one of the most successful mixers ever. And you can always reflect on that and be like, hey, I know what that's like, and this is not to be taken for granted.
I always say that the worst day in the studio is still the best day of what could have been my life. So, I'm playing with house money. So it's like, and that gives you a sense of almost freedom to take chances and be like, you know what? No matter what happens, I'm still better off than where I came from. I joke that we're expensive babysitters.
No doubt. And psychologists at that.
Yeah.
That's like one of the main things that I've, taken from you and your approach is this idea of the psychology of mixing, and I think that's such a powerful concept. Could you expand on kind of like your mixing philosophy, if you will?
It's funny because when we do these seminars, right? I mean, some people are disappointed that I don't necessarily teach them how to EQ or kick or snare. Like, man, you're going to figure that out on your own. You don't need anybody to teach you that. That's going to happen. And with time, you're going to change. That's always going to evolve. But one thing that's not going to change ever is like controlling your mind in a way that you're in control of it and not it controls you. Look, if this is a hobby, knock yourself out. It's
Hmm.
complete. But the moment you exchange a dollar, it's a business. So in a business world, you have to be mindful of everything. And it's gonna be the most important thing that's gonna get in the way or help you get over that hurdle is gonna be your mind. And of course your gut and your heart and all of the other ones, but your mind has to be right. Your mental health has to be right. And my philosophy is very simple. It's just like get your mind right, and everything else will follow. A lot of people they go to seminars or talk about it. It's like, oh, these are my top 10 plugins. Great. Don't mind talking about that.
Sure.
But if your mind ain't right, you can have all the plugins, all the hardware, software, you can have all the tools. And if your mind
Hmm.
is not right, there's no way you're going to perform. Simple.
It's so true. And you've said this other kind of connecting concept, and I love this, which is, there's two reasons why you turn a knob. One is to make it sound better, and one is to
Mm.
make it feel better. And
Yeah.
that's two pretty different ideas, both important, right? But like, I think having the understanding or getting to a point where you can differentiate between those two things,
Yeah, man.
mentally is like it's huge, right?
I feel like schools, it's like they teach you how to, for me at least, a mixer, they teach you that mixers are fixers.
Mm,
Oh, we'll fix it in the mix. And already your mind is you're kind of mind fucking yourself into being a fixer, right? I always say stop thinking as a mixer, stop thinking that you're a fixer. Go in there and be creative, not necessarily by playing something, changing a melody but be creative with spectrum, with frequencies, emotions and height, width, depth. And how does that what's the perception of that when you do it, when 1K hits, it's all frequencies and it's all emotions. And what we're simply doing is we're, kind of translating it and giving it some steroids where it really needs. And sometimes it's leaving it alone. And that's one of the hardest things to do. That is
mm,
probably the hardest thing to do is to leave it alone because your ego's going to be engaged and your ego's going to say, wait, I haven't done enough. They're
mm.
not going to hire me again because I haven't done enough. Man, that's a tough one. That's a really, really tough. And I say that that's the art form. It's been in the past, but it's more than ever. Like how your ego kind of you try to keep it in check because it's going
It's
to lead you the wrong way sometimes.
it's so powerful, Manny. I mean, I just feel like not a lot of people talk about that, and I've heard you speak on it a number of times, and until you get to that point and you actually start to feel yourself having to navigate through that. I mean, even in small situations like maybe you're dealing with a rough mix that is a really good rough mix, and you're going, okay, well, I'm going to need to push this maybe 5 or 10% and it's going to be what it needs to be, but I got to back off and, not screw it up,
Yeah.
and that's
Mhm.
sometimes that's challenging to do because you're in your own mind, you're like, well, is it going to be enough for them to be able to really
Right.
noticeably tell, oh, this is, remarkably better? It may not be, but it's just, you're pushing it to where it needs to be. I mean, is that fair? Do you feel that way sometimes?
It's that fine balance of confidence too, because you got to be a confident. I always say you got to be confident, not cocky.
Yeah.
I always say it's like going to see a DJ. Why do you go see that DJ? They're playing pre-recorded tracks anyways. Well, that's you trust their taste. You trust that they're gonna play the music that you might enjoy, and that's why you go see them. Mixers
Mm.
are very similar in the sense that they go for a style. Because they wanna almost get your a little bit of your taste and your style and your opinion based on what comes out of the speakers. So you have to be confident as well.
Well, we got to touch on at least some of just your discography and sound. It's just mind blowing to me how many different amazing artists that you've worked with over the years. I was going through just in preparing, going back and through your catalog, but also just not realizing some of these tracks that I've listened to, enjoying as a fan and using as a reference as a mix engineer. My question is, I'm sure there's projects that stick out to you as sort of seminal works over the years, and I'm
Hmm.
sure that changes. But
Yep.
what would you say are some of those for you that you're most proud of, and why do they stand out to you?
That's like asking if you have 10 kids, like, name your favorite. I think that the best way for me to answer something like that is just pivotal moments in my life, both personally and professionally. Like, I remember the first song that Rodney Jerkins called me. It's like, man, did you mix that? And I was 22, 21. I don't can't remember. And it was a Whitney Houston song with Soul Shot and Carden, Heartbreak Hotel. And I remember the first song that some of the producers were like, "Man, that we like that." Before I was just a kid engineering, not really mixing, but even though I always wanted to be a mixer. I mean, there's a John Mayer that when I first met him, we were doing Gravity. There's been so many points in my career that I'm so thankful. And I think my mom, man, she said to me once, she's like, "Hey, look, doesn't matter how much you get paid, but think of the worst case scenario. Think if you were getting minimum wage, living in some single apartment in Pacoima, which is deep in the valley in LA, the hood, as we say, would you still do it?" And I'm like, and that was the bar for me. It's like, so I never did anything based on status or money or any of that. I just like, would you do it if you were getting paid minimum wage and just living just right, within your means with a shitty apartment and deep in the valley? And that was the answer, man. It was yes, and it still is yes to this day. Hopefully that won't happen, but that means you got to be passionate about it. And some people get into the industry for the wrong reasons. But if you're doing it for the right reasons and you ask yourself that question, don't give up. Simple as that.
Mm,
People that don't make it are the ones that give up.
that's it. That's a dream. Yeah,
That is the thing, for
yeah,
sure. Yeah.
100%. So just talking a little bit about the high level of trust required to work with the artist that you work with. I think it would be easy to kind of discount like your place by saying, "Oh, Manny just gets to you get great music to begin with to mix, right?" I'm sure you probably have heard this before, and
Yep.
maybe to be honest, I might have thought about it like this at a point in my career where I was like, if I could mix or get some of this stuff, that would put me, maybe a little bit of a leg up, right? But they're coming to you specifically and they're trusting you on a very high level, and there's a reason for that. How did that kind of look for you coming up and establishing that trust?
Yeah. There's so many boxes that you have to check, and there's no way around it. Like, again, what comes out of the speakers is just one box, and there's about 50 other ones that you have to check. You have to um consistency. You go again, I always bring it back to food and wine. But you go to a restaurant and you keep going back for one main thing, and that's consistency. The moment it's not consistent, you go somewhere else. So you got to be consistent. You got to have a great team. No matter what you do, you got to have a great team. You got to have a team that you trust. You got to be willing to show up, on time. And boxes that are so obvious, but you'd be surprised a lot of people just don't do them.
Well, let's jump into talk a little bit about your Waves plugins because
Yeah.
I'm definitely a fan. And
They
yeah, so the Manny Marroquin signature line. We've got,
yeah.
what was it, 4 or 5 plugins you have in there? I have them all, but I'm trying to think of
6, yeah,
them.
yeah, I think it's
6.
6.
Okay.
It's funny because when they first approached me to do this, gosh, that was a while back. I was like, "Wait, you want me to do plugins? This is like sucker." I thought I'm gonna use my own plugins, and the funniest thing is that to this day, my template, not template, but my setup has all my plugins ready to go with every session because I use them on every freaking song I've ever done since they came out.
Mhm.
Every song. That's probably not, well, maybe an exaggeration. Maybe 99.9 of songs that they have those plugins. So I think they're unique. Shout out to Waves and Mike and Shahar that brought me in back in the beginning. And and I use them all the time. And for example, like the EQ,
Love it, by the way.
um,
That
there's
EQ
like
is a
yeah,
monster.
it's like a EQ on steroids, like the reverb. I mean, it's just one of the best sounding reverbs. I've done them. I still do, blind listening sessions with my guys, and I put it right up there, man. Wave says they did such a great job. I just wanted to have a kick-ass EQ, reverb, delay. I use the delay all the time.
Yeah.
Distortion. Gosh, I'm working on Lizzo's album right now, and that thing is on a few songs. I mean, again, I'm still using it creatively on most of the if not all the records that I'm working on.
They save a ton of time. I mean, even just the delay, where you would be processing that delay and sending it to your phaser or,
Mhm. Yeah.
distortion, reverb. It's all right there. And I mean, that's arguably one of my favorite delays, period. So love
Hey,
it. The EQ, the top end of the EQ is
mm,
it's very crisp, very clean, but it just still has that bite to it,
mhm.
So
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of them, and I definitely have
Yeah.
been trying to present that EQ more because I hear people talking about different EQs, and I'm like, have y'all heard this Manny EQ? Because yeah, it's it's pretty serious.
It's yeah. I mean, they came out maybe 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and
Hmm.
I still get so many people hitting me up saying, "Oh, I had no idea." They're discovering it for the first
Yeah,
time.
yeah,
Uh,
I love it.
Hey, stuff like that, I feel like, just doesn't go out of style.
No,
It's always gonna be there. And I'm sure based on, sales, I'm sure Waves is hopefully happy because I think it's one of those that just keeps on, selling. Just it's useful. It's not gonna go out of style.
no, and I mean, you designed what you wanted, so you made the plugins as
Me. Yeah,
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 you made them. I've heard you talk about it. You made them for you, and it's obvious, like the Manny, like your style is in there. Everything is right there, and it's
I remember going through all these chains just to get a distortion or a flanger on the delay on the console because I'm still mixing on the console,
hmm,
and it's like this is gonna take 5 minutes just to do a delay with some effects on it, and I'm like, if only I could have
right,
a plug-in and just turn one knob, and there it is, voila, and it sounds good. I remember I was obsessed with the PCM 42. I kept telling Mike, I'm like, man, we gotta make it sound like the 42, 42. And I don't know what they did, but fuck, man, it's when I got the earlier versions, I'm like A-Bing it to a 42. I was like, okay. So it's it took me a long time actually because it was like I think I quit a couple times or they either fired me or I quit, and so we went back and forth, and thankfully, again, we Waves didn't give up. I didn't give up, and man, I'm so proud of those plugins. Like I said, they're part of my setup every day.
well,
So I'm glad
thankful for
they hung in
all of us that it worked out for sure.
there.
Because I don't know what I would do without them. Like for real, for real. Very
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 happy
good
to
stuff.
hear that.
Yeah. So you're on the SSL 9000K, is that right?
Yeah. Okay. Yep. Yep.
So are you? I know that you're kind of using that more as a performance tool at this point. Is that right?
Yeah, 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 I do. Like less performing on like rides, but more performing on emotion, like low end, top end, balancing. I definitely balance on the desk in like real time and emotionally. And then I get it to about 80%. And then the left brain kind of kicks in and okay, am I distorting? Am I overdriving? And then I kind of analyze what I've done on the desk. And then kind of at that point, I'm hybrid.
So in
Uh,
addition to stems, are you're receiving like the actual, I guess the final production
yeah,
session or recording session?
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Oh,
And
that's
yeah,
awesome. Yeah.
yeah,
So
that's the way it should be. Like,
yeah, that's really cool. I didn't even think about that, but as
nah,
you're going through that and you're kind of seeing, okay, some of this stuff doesn't work, but also you're probably hearing like new things and new techniques because
Yep.
I mean the producers you're working with are some of the best, and so I'm
Yeah.
sure they're
Yeah. Yeah.
implementing stuff that you see, and you're like, oh, I never thought to use that, or
Yeah.
is that?
Yeah. And then you analyze it. Sometimes, when you're in production mode, you don't necessarily think technically at times.
Mhm,
So even though you might have done a rough mix yourself with that session at some point, but the difference why I feel like mixers still exist for one reason.
mhm,
Not because the producer can mix it or the artist or their engineers. Um, they're too close to it. Imagine this: you're in the studio at 2 in the morning. You had a glass of wine or drinks, or you're smoking, whatever you're doing. You're trying to finish a song and you just can't finish it. There's something missing, and you invite your buddy to go come play guitar, and he or she plays this incredible solo, right?
mhm.
And you're feeling so good in that moment. It's a group of people. There's the artist, the producers, songwriter, and you'll look at each other and go, "This is it. This is what we've been missing. this is this is it." And they go, "Okay, let's mix it." So say I get it. Uh, I don't have. I'm not biased to anything on there. I wasn't there at 2 in the morning with this guitar solo, and I may listen to that solo and be like, "Man, this just tone wise, whatever the reason is, may not work the way it is, say on the rough or whatever the intention was." And I give them a representation of what I think could be, but they could never do that because they're too they wanna hold on to that moment that where they wrote, where they heard that guitar player, that solo. It's really difficult to either hit mute down or EQ it. I don't have that moment, so I don't have any attachment to any of that stuff. And that's one of the only reasons why we exist. We have an unbiased opinion on your art, and you trust us to make certain calls to see if we can just hopefully improve it.
I love it. I love it. Manny, this has been so much fun. Like I'm so thankful that you've been on here, and I know that like this is just
Appreciate
going to be
it.
helpful. Your perspective and your knowledge is just it's awesome, man. Thank you so much.
Thank you again. Appreciate the
Yeah,
time.
appreciate it, Manny.